Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We bring you stories of faith, love, and devotion. Yeah, just kidding, please help us grow by hitting that like button. Now on to the story. Saw the shocking video of my fiance with someone else, started my revenge plan. I can't believe I am here. I am not sure where to begin. My fiance and I have been together for 5 years. I am in my early 40s and she is in her early 30s. We are set to be married this summer. We remain in love today, as we were in our first few months. We met at work, colleagues in different departments, and a really solid, respectful friendship turned into something more. We have always been really happy with a good bed life, no financial concerns, trustful, respectful, open, good communication, a lot of fun with our shared interests, and no mistrust or insecurity when we do our own things. The one thing I suppose I must admit is that she was engaged to someone when we first met at work. And while nothing ever happened between us, I am not a cheater. There were times, if I am being really honest, that I felt she flirted with me inappropriately. Anyway, this past September, with COVID more under control where we live, we hosted a small dinner party for 3 other couples on a Saturday night. My fiancé, who always loves doing this stuff, was insistent on having set places at the table for everyone. She sat between one of her good female friends and her husband, let's call him Bob. In between courses, while I was going back and forth between the kitchen and while everyone was happily drunkenly chatting away at the table, I thought I caught the weirdest side when I glanced back at my wife and Bob. I thought I saw them intertwining fingers under the table. I turned away and rubbed my eyes. And when I looked back, they weren't doing that. But it was one of those moments that, well, it is like if you have ever experienced a break-in in your house. You come back from work or wherever and your eyes register the chaos of a break-in. But your brain takes seconds or even minutes to catch up and process everything. In fact, part of your brain is saying this is what it looks like, or you did this. But for God, you left the place like this. Same with this. But as a result, I basically started becoming way more watchful of her and less feeling like I was on solid ground. Fast forward to November and I started noticing something. Some nights when we are both exhausted, we just enjoy relaxing in front of the TV with both of us on our laptops or phones. She has a billion Facebook friends, so spends a lot of time there when we veg out. But what I noticed starting in November and continuing to the present day is that she had positioned herself just ever so slightly perfectly away from me so that I couldn't see her screen. It was subtle, but I don't think I was imagining it. Since before that we have been able to see each other's screens whenever on the couch together. Finally, in late November, we had a lousy week where we fought quite a bit because she suddenly wanted to bring Bob and his wife to our long-planned holiday this January. For one, I don't like the guy, and for another, I just had this creeping sense that something is not right. But because I couldn't give her great reasons for excluding them, she became frustrated with me. Anyway, fate interceded, and because of COVID, etc., we had to cancel the holiday anyway. Having now read many threads here, I can say that I know I am in a lucky position because we aren't married and don't have kids. And I suppose because I have no proof anything is happening. But every one of my intuitive systems is on high alert, maybe not red alert yet. And I am feeling ashamed of the degree to which my emerging obsession about this is taking over my life. Where I think I require input is straightforward. Should I start taking steps to essentially spy on her, whether a private investigator voice-activated recorder in the car, or for me a total boundary violation trying to get into our various devices? I'll end this as I began it. I can't believe I am here. Update. Before I get to any clarifications, I should add a key thing I registered here about a month ago, and before that had written out my first post a while ago, and it just felt good at the time to get it out. But the key thing that has happened between then and now is that there has been a notable difference in our bed life. Frequency has diminished, but suddenly no problem there. That is the ebb and flow in a relationship. What stands out though, is an episode about a week ago, which prompted me to come back here and find the courage to post that we had just finished lovemaking when it suddenly hit me that she made love to me very differently than normal, and not just then, but maybe the previous 2 to 3 times before. So like that comment, not really filtering anything beforehand, was to say, hey, there is something different about the way you are having love with me. And what was weird was she seemed startled, because she denied it. But then see, the next day she said, I think you were just imagining it. And besides, it doesn't hurt to change things up in that domain once in a while, don't you think? What's so frustrating about all of this is that I have not seen the handhold. I just wouldn't be bothered or suspicious by any of the subsequent clues, answers/questions. I would prefer to gather evidence and confront it. It just isn't who I am to confront without having true proof of some problem. It's not so clear-cut that I don't trust her. But I would say that my gut tells me to be very concerned. My intuition is rarely incorrect. Update 1. So I will cut the conclusion as short as I can. By yesterday afternoon I was armed with 2 weekends worth of photographic proof. I selected the 6 most powerful photos and sent them to our Facebook wedding group. I apologized for my delay in responding to my wayward fiance's deceitful Saturday message. I explained that I had been visiting her ex-fiance and had been disappointed, though not surprised, to see that she had done this before. I asked the group to truly ask themselves whether any part of me has ever seemed even remotely emotionally offensive. I asked the group whether my wayward fiancé had ever before her affair been exposed, and mentioned to any of them that I was emotionally offensive. I felt that if any of them were more honest in answering these questions, they would have their truth. Aside from the damning photos, I have received several supportive messages from most of the group. Somehow the ones from the bridesmaids have cheered me even more. Her father has asked me to go for coffee with him this week. He really adores me. I am not sure I want to go really, despite my close relationship with him. Finally, as liberating as it has been to escape this crazy person with whom I shared a bed, a house and a life for 5 years, most of me is broken beyond belief. Not only do I question deeply my supposed powers of observation and intuition to have lived beside someone for 5 years, whom I so clearly did not even know, but it is just the extreme damage this will undoubtedly do to my future relationships. I am free, sure, but I will never trust again. I should point something out that a lot of people have asked about, but I haven't addressed. She is a stunningly beautiful woman. She has been compared by many people to basically being a twin of Blake Lively. I am not sure whether we are allowed to use celebrity names here. If not, my apologies, and I will edit it. And no, don't worry. I'm not saying this because I want her back. Just pointing out that for her whole life, she has turned heads everywhere she is gone. Her ex on Friday night was telling me that that was part of why he kept taking her back, that he felt that he would do anything to keep a woman that beautiful in his life. That certainly hasn't been my attitude since discovering her infidelity. But it is more than possible that the thing I'm struggling with most right now, my complete and utter blindness to what was going on, was due to believing the woman inside mirrored the beauty on the surface. Edit. I wasn't spending money for further proof. The first photos told me everything I didn't need to know. I was in disbelief that after all of that she and he could within days just carry on so brazenly as though D-Day was nothing. A part of me believes that the private investigator would find nothing this past weekend. Seeing those photos ended any small pathetic voice inside me thinking that there was a chance this could be overcome. But I am grateful for the cold sobering shower provided by the second bit of proof. I wanted to give her the dignity of coming clean to her family and our wedding party on her own. Some of our discussions last week pointed to the fact she would take that gift. I don't see my basic thread of saying, if you don't tell the truth about why the wedding is off, I will have to be the one to do it. None of it was some game. Sorry, but have you read this full thread properly? How can you be so rude to me about this? Update 2. I am out of town on a business trip and alone in my hotel room now. It feels like the first time in a while that I have been able to breathe and take stock. Wednesday I called the other betrayed spouse and asked to meet her. She said she knew why I wanted to meet and that she did not wish to suffer further pain. She is a close friend of one of the bridesmaids who had told her about my Facebook post. I expressed my concern to her that she was allowing herself to be continually damaged by her husband and told her that meeting with me and seeing the photos from the second consecutive affair weekend would surprisingly turn out to be empowering for her in the longer term. She disagreed. My wayward fiancé has been texting, calling and even emailing since my Facebook post revealing her second infidelity weekend. I have not said a single word to her directly in 10 days. The tone of her text has evolved from spite and anger on the day of the Facebook post to hurt and despondency midweek to begging, pleading, negotiating, promising and so forth over the last few days. She has apparently left a handwritten letter in my mailbox. While I had been away detailing her reasons for being given another chance as well as her multi-step plan to atone for all of this, I made the right decision to expose to our wedding party the real reasons for the cancellation of the marriage. Not only did I have to defend myself immediately from such heinous claims that I was an offensive person, but it also constituted the absolute most minimal consequence of her failing to take the path of integrity by telling the truth in her own words about why our relationship has come to an end. I have spoken with each of the groomsmen as well as 2 of the bridesmaids and it is clear they came to my defense immediately and turned on her quickly for being a cheater and B for being so utterly craven as to turn around and suggest that I was offensive. Part of me is superficially concerned that her sudden about-face and desire to win me back has not come from a good place within her but from the community response to her actions. I feel/fear that, had there been less opprobrium for her from everyone in the group and had said a few of them believed her poisonous lies that wouldn't have swiftly been begging for my mercy. But I can't worry about that. I will disappoint all of you by saying that I agreed to meet with her father on Thursday. We met at his golf club for mid-afternoon drinks. It was a long and difficult and complex discussion. Her father is a very, very high-powered man and one of the most high-profile people in the city where we live. I have to be very careful saying any more than that. He took me in his competence by telling me that he had had 2 big affairs when my wayward fiancé was younger. A detail my wayward fiancé never shared with me was the first a year-long one when she was 10, the second a lengthier one when she was 15 to 16. He told me this because he blames himself for his daughter's infidelity towards me. He pointed out how she has always worshipped him, and that he didn't do a sufficiently strong job of pointing out to his daughter. When both affairs were revealed, why would he do so wrong and how it might have hurt her mother, the children and the larger family. He told me that she has never loved another man as she has loved me, and that this is the first time a man has actually held her accountable for any form of poor behavior. He suggested that I hold tremendous power here and that I have a godlike opportunity to grant his daughter forgiveness and salvation, that my ability to forgive her and reforge the relationship will not only be the mark of a great man, but that it will also secure her lifelong loyalty to me from her. I won't lie, there was a tremendous amount of seductiveness in the thoughts I had surrounding those words. But then he made the mistake of saying that given his power name, he could open X door and Y door for me by doing C, and I could see how his name would enable just that. However, when he said that to me, I then lost my cool. In the flash of a moment, I saw little difference between his thinking on the one hand, that his name and power could absolve any sin, and of course, on the other hand, my wayward fiancé's thinking that her physical beauty could absolve her many infidelities. If it weren't for what I have learned from this thread, I wouldn't have been able to say what I said next, which was, I don't think you understand. It will take years for your daughter to re-enter my life in any form. I said for me to be with her again, I would need to know that she truly had understanding, empathy, self-knowledge and genuine remorse. But I said that will be a long journey for her. She's been doing this for years and years, and her damage is deeply ingrained. To his credit, he respected my stance and asked me to just give it all a bit more time. Friday morning, a few hours before I was to head to the airport, the other betrayed spouse phoned and with a shaky voice asked whether I could meet for coffee. I agreed. In the name of respect and dignity, I will not share the details of the painful 40 minutes we spent together. But the second round of photos was horrible for her to see and to process. Yet by the end of the chat, she was actually making some headway around the reality of what her husband had done with her and with one of her actual friends no less, and I believe she is finally embarking down her own slow, difficult pathway to the light. Part of me was tempted to point her here, but then I realized I wanted to keep this to myself. And I also don't want things to get messy and more complex and internecine than they already are. Finally, yesterday before dinner, I received a long email from my wayward fiance's mother. She had enough empathy to acknowledge how I might be feeling, but then proceeded to share the day her daughter has revealed all of the details about her affair to her, and that B, she has never seen her daughter so broken, and that C, would I at some level take some time to consider giving her another chance. Wow. It's like me and my pain around this are the deepest afterthought ever. I returned home yesterday evening, and my wayward fiancé had indeed left a handwritten letter in my mailbox. At first, I resisted the urge to open it and in fact went to sleep undecided about whether I would open it at all. But I couldn't sleep and eventually gave up and opened the letter. I wanted to sleep, what little I could cobble together on it, reflect, then post a summary of a letter here. So here I am today. She started with a simple apology, saying that she would never forgive herself for the hurt she has caused me. She then said that she and her Bob are completely done forever. She then went into deeply explicit, almost forensic detail about the degree to which I was her best lover, etc., etc. ever. While A, I doesn't care, and B, it no longer matters, I will give her credit for the level of detail she provided about what I did for her in that regard. And as compared against Bob and all previous lovers, it was both weird and touching. She then provided a timeline of how things unfolded. Just a few weeks before the September dinner party where I thought I saw them holding hands under the table, Bob phoned her and asked whether she could meet because he and his wife, other betrayed spouse, were having marital difficulties, and given that my wayward fiancé and other betrayed spouse were friends, apparently my wayward fiancé would provide the requisite insight he sought. They met for coffee one workday morning, about 7 to 8 days before the dinner party, which led to him texting her throughout the next week. On the morning of our dinner party, under the pretext of an over-lengthy shopping trip, she met with him in a park, and there he confessed his deep infatuation for her. She said she was ashamed of how she felt for his lines, but his primary argument was that if she felt even 25% of what he did for her, she should scratch that itch before committing to marriage. She said she told him a firm no to do that, but that throughout the dinner party later that night that he was playing footsies with her under the table. She says it was pretty much the unluckiest thing in the world that I happened to turn back at the very moment he put his hand through hers. She says he initiated that too. They had their first kiss in late October. Amazingly, when she was over for drinks and dinner at an affair partner and other betrayed spouse's place on a weekend where I was away. Another betrayed spouse had gone to put the kids to bed after dinner, and he had kissed my wayward fiancé passionately while his wife was out of the room. She knew it was wrong but also called it thrilling. He had apparently put a lot of pressure on her throughout November to get me to agree to have him and other betrayed spouse on our January vacation. A lot of their texting throughout November and December was based around scenario after scenario he countered to say how they would manage to have illicit love right under our noses. She was vague about the details of love, but said it began in early February. Affair partner insisted it was in my house as often as they could manage. She said that his ultimate thrill was to humiliate me. Remarkably, her big argument was as follows: she acknowledges that infidelity is in her blood, not sure whether a reference to bloodline or DNA, perhaps both are true, yet that she was 100% excited and prepared to put all of that behind her because I am the perfect man. Her twisted logic was that by having this affair, it would purge her of all the demons and would cleanse her in preparation for a fully committed life with me. She said that the hugest appeal to this affair was her quiet love of this man, the one who apparently makes her feel safe and secure. And that combined with a sick desire to humiliate me, the self-disgust generated from her choice to be with him would finally put her off her last ditch to cheat. We hope that by sharing these stories with interested folks like you, we can help people recognize the signs of a relationship in trouble, and avoid so many of these heartbreaking situations yourselves. Have a good day or night, wherever you are.